I know that some people like to keep their lives private, and I totally respect that. But I know that this is my way of healing, and it's my duty. Like, this is what I have to do. And there's not a lot of people that want to do that or that are willing to do that.
Cheryl, I am so excited to chat with you all about your brand new podcast, Burke in the Game, which I think is such a fun play on words, a fun title. So tell me, why is now the perfect time to launch this podcast?
Well, iHeart approached me and they were like, we have an amazing idea. I did a podcast with AJ McLean and Renee when we danced back a couple seasons ago. And then we switched it from pretty messed up to pretty messed up, but behind the scenes of Dancing with the Stars. And then now they're like, what if we did an interactive dating, but not dating? Because they know that I'm not even ready. The word dating makes me nauseous, ready to date at this moment. But they're like, but what if you have your real experiences here, in front of the audience live, you're going through all of these emotions and then they choose your fate. I'm like, what? You're talking to a control freak, right? So I am such a control freak. I like to think that I can micromanage everything around me and somehow come out with the result that I want when it never works. So in a way I was like, okay, well, as long as you guys respect the fact that I'm not ready to date at the moment, but they are coming along this journey with me as I'm going through it, through this divorce, which isn't easy. And it probably will be good for me to test out being vulnerable and trying to surrender to this experiment, because this is what it is. It's an experiment.
Yeah. I mean, what scares you the most about being so vulnerable with your audience?
Well, it's the control aspect of it. Mm-hmm. It's I have to literally let them decide, does Cheryl go on a silent retreat versus just a meditation retreat? Will, how long before I can date again? Or, does she need to see a sex therapist, or does she need to freeze her eggs? It's it really is the Truman Show meets the Bachelorette, but podcasting.
I love it. It's such a great idea. I mean, when did you feel like, okay, now I'm in the right headspace to do this? Or do you still feel like maybe you're not, and that's kind of why you're doing it?
I'm totally not at all, because I've never gone through a divorce, and I've never gone through having to really take a step back. I'm 38 and really having to make big life decisions. 37 was all about, for me, it was all about evolving and staying curious. And I hope to stay curious for the rest of my life. And I feel like 38 is going to be actually putting that into action, which Definitely. Is scary. So. Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, what does scare you the most about doing this experiment? And is there anything off limits that you won't try, that's maybe I'm not going to do that?
That's not what the deal is, right? No, I am going to really hope to God that the listeners have my best interests at heart, which I'm sure they will. I think everyone is probably waiting to see what this is all about. For the first episode, we have my therapist. So we go right in, we dive deep really quick. And I basically signed my life away. So she was able to divulge it all over the past 8 years of seeing her consistently for, every week, really. And it was interesting to see that perspective, because I am a hermit, right? I love to stay home. And I've gotten really comfortable being at home. I don't necessarily, being sober now, I don't love going out. I don't love big social groups. I have social phobia. I'm an onion whose layers are just going to peel off quickly. And you'll see this, it'll be interesting, because I also don't want to half-ass it either. I'm not going to say I did something and then not do it. I told iHeart and the producers, I was like, I'm going to do this then. We're going to do this. And I'm probably not going to like any of it as I'm doing it. I'll throw a temper tantrum, but I'm going to try and just have an open mind. And it's the surrender experiment, really. Yeah.
No, I mean, what kind of things do you and your therapist talk about in the first episode? And how, like you said, you guys, you dive really deep. She's known you for 8 years. So what kind of nuggets are the audience going to learn about you?
Well, what's interesting is that we've got my podcast dad, Sam Rubin, KTLA. He is there hosting it or co-hosting it with me. And what's great about him is that he lives this perfect life. He's had really no trauma. He comes from not a divorced family. He has had 2 marriages, but he says he's never failed before his first marriage when that didn't work out. And I'm the opposite, like the total opposite. So it's interesting to hear his perspective. And he really asks questions to my therapist about like, is Cheryl ready to date? Mm-hmm. What type of men does she need to, like, why is she a bad picker? Or, you know, we get there and we go there and she goes there to the point where like, she like tests me sometimes, you know, and I'm like, wait a second, wait. I'm like punching her. She doesn't even care. Right. Like, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Right. And I think in the teaser for the podcast, you say that you kind of point the finger at yourself when it comes to your relationships and why your relationships didn't work out. I mean, do you really feel like all of these failed relationships are your fault in some way?
Not 100%, but I do believe that it's never just one person's fault, right? It's not just, oh, it's because of him, everything. No, like whatever, you know, it takes two to tango. And it really is, you know, something that we can't control is the other person. And so I think what people are hopefully hearing is the fact that I'm taking ownership of my side of the street, right? And I want to take full accountability, because there is no point of pointing the finger when I actually can't change that person. It's just a waste of time. And I'm just learning this through therapy. It's a recent discovery for me when it comes to accountability. And I also expect that from people, whether they're, you know, a friend, a partnership, a coworker. Like, accountability is very important for me, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think it said in the release that some of your exes will be on the show. How do they feel about you talking about?
They don't know yet.
They don't know yet. I mean, I'm sure maybe you gave some a heads up. I mean, how do they feel about you talking about your relationship?
Well, you know, I am very respectful about not mentioning names. And I don't, this is not a podcast about like the gossip behind my divorce. It is only for me to really express myself and not be edited. And just to basically say, you know what, it sucks. This sucks. And, you know, there's not a day that goes by that I am not upset and that I'm not sad or feel like, you know, I don't want to be around anybody. And I even throw temper tantrums at myself. Like, I am really making a conscious effort to try and feel my feelings, however that means to anybody. But it's been interesting for me because in my journey of feeling feelings, it doesn't necessarily come easy. I'm really good at numbing and I'm really good at being productive. And that is in replace of the alcohol, right? Of my addiction. And so when I make a conscious effort lately into really feeling the pain, it's really but I know that you know, time will tell and time heals, but also I have to put words to the feelings. I'm so used to speaking and communicating through my body language because of dance. Right. And it's important that my main focus and wanting to do this podcast as well is to help other women out there, especially who may feel like they're alone, because it is a death in the family. It is lonely. It could be very lonely when you think you feel like this and you're the only person feeling like this. It's not an easy journey. And I think that I'm lucky enough to have a platform like I do to be able to selfishly as well, just have these talks with a camera, whoever's listening. It's very therapeutic, right, for me as well. So, and I hope to help people at the end of the day.
I think, you know, you make such a good point. And I think a lot of people don't realize when you're going through divorce, it does feel like you're mourning somebody, that you're losing somebody. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so many people can relate to that. So many people are going through divorces that, you know, you walk into a marriage thinking that that's going to be forever. And, you know, even though it doesn't work out, doesn't mean necessarily failed, but it was, you know, it's hard to lose somebody in that respect. And is that how you're feeling right now?
Totally. And, you know, the word failure has such a bad connotation to it. Like, it really, I think maybe this is the athlete in me. I have failed way more than I know I'll ever succeed, but it's because of those failures. I feel like we have to change the name, right? It's just, it sounds so bad, but like, it makes you, there's a lot of shame behind failing for most people. And me included, a lot of guilt and shame. And those are the two feelings you don't want to live in, right? Because that tends to then stay in your body and who knows, can get you sick down the road. And it's like, we have to be okay with failing, because without that, there is no succeeding. There really isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what would you say that you've learned about yourself in these past few months so far?
Well, I could tell you that I know a lot more about my morals, values, and beliefs than ever before. I think I remember my therapist asked me that question maybe a year ago, and I was like, I don't know. Actually, I couldn't tell you. And I've also learned that moving forward, right? Like, it is important that two individuals talk about the morals, values, and beliefs that they have. And hopefully it's similar, right? And then with that, they grow as independent two people, right? I get very codependent sometimes. I am anxious, what's it called? Anxious attachment. You're looking at her, there's like anxious attachment and something else attachment. I forgot the other one, but it's like, they always end up marrying each other, right? And it's just a common thread. And it is interesting because it's like, I don't know if it's the dancing, but like, I tend to like, we're one. No, we're not one. We're like actually still two individual people, right? Mm-hmm. Here on this planet Earth and doing this thing together called life. And eventually, yes, maybe we will grow a life together, but with that, it's so important to still be your own person. And I sometimes can be a chameleon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Has dance helped you?
Oh, dance has helped me from everything, from my child abuse to my abusive relationships, to my parents' divorce, to my alcoholism, my addiction. I mean, and more so now that I'm conscious of it, and more so now that I'm creating a dance program of mental health and movement, right? Like, it's so fascinating. I'm also starting a new therapy, process called somatic experiencing. And I'm going to be doing that next week because I'm so fascinated with how our bodies have so much to say, yet we are taught in society today to push through, like, no pain, no gain. My left ankle hurts, I got a right one, like, especially as an athlete, like, there is no bowing out. You bow out, there's someone there is waiting to replace you. So it's like, to have to listen to your body and really retrain your brain just to like know that your body, if you try to force whatever it is that you're forcing, whether you're pushing through, it'll hold on to that trauma in your body and it will turn into something horrific at the end of the day.
I mean, going through all this, like, you've been so open and honest about your sobriety as well. Has going through this tested that at all?
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's more like, it's not like I missed the act of drinking. I never liked the taste of it. It was just for the effect. Mm-hmm. Right. So, absolutely. I've thought about it, especially, and I'm home alone, mm-hmm. But it's like Fort Knox here. So anyone who hears this better not come on my property or else. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding, but yeah, you see what I'm saying. I realized I've been saying that too much in the interviews that like now every sound I hear, I'm like schizophrenic. So,
has that been hard? Do you like living alone? Has that been hard?
I've lived in this home for 15 years, right? And I've had lots of memories, as you can imagine, and different stages of my life here. And for obvious reasons, now is not a good time to sell. It's a good time to sell. It's not a good time to buy. Yeah. Right. But, I'm trying to make this home my own again. And it's going to go through renovations very soon, which I'm excited about. But like, more than that, though, it's a new quiet in my life, right? Like, and there are times I love it. There are times that I'm like really conscious about it and I'm observing my thoughts and I'm like, wow, the peace is quiet. And the people that are walking in, they're like, oh, it just feels so peaceful here. And that makes my heart happy because I have definitely put in a lot of energy, new energy, and trying to make this kind of like my zen,
You said it earlier in the interview when you were talking to your therapist, when you started off the year at 37, you were talking about your morals and your goals and you didn't really know what that was. What would you say are your morals, your goals, everything going into from a year from now when you're 39, where do you hope to be?
You're like Oprah. I just got a journal, and that's like one of the things that I'm like still stuck on that page.
Yeah.
Let me get it out. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So I know that loyalty and trust is a huge thing for me. Yeah. Being accountable, right? Not just preaching, but practicing what you preach, mm-hmm. which is a lot of the reason why, like, look, at the end of the day, these are all things that I expect from myself, right? Or that, you expect something from like somebody else, but really it's like, wait a second, there's a reason why you're in each other's lives. Maybe it's to show you that, or maybe it's to, who knows, maybe it's there to help guide each other, be that person. But, for other people, it's different. The order could be different. There's no right or wrong. But I also believe that, a discussion about just like family and just really having these talks, because in the beginning of any type of celebration, there's all this excitement and it's great. And I think that this is why I don't regret couples therapy, because we had these discussions, but again, people evolve, and it is what it is. So
I know. And I know,
unfortunate.
I know we've talked several times, and I know family is very important to you. And I know having children one day is something that you want. I mean, and you say that on the podcast, you're going to talk about freezing your eggs and doing things like that. I mean, is that something that you are actively considering now?
I wouldn't say I'm actively, meaning like I'm taking the steps towards it, because I know that I am most likely, if they want me back, we'll be doing another season, I think, of dancing. But, and again, with my body dysmorphia, it's a lot to handle. And I just know for my own mental state and wellness, which is my first priority above anything, I cannot even take those steps until I know I'm completely done with the show, right? As a dancer, at least, right?
Yeah. And so you think you want to go back I'm sure they would ask you back, but you want to go back for another season?
I think one more solid season. Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Especially at Disney Plus. Like, I got to try this whole streaming thing out.
It's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about that. It's going to be great. And I know that you mentioned before, dating is not even at the front of your mind at the moment. Not at all. But
I swear I'm like the biggest turnoff probably with like any male figure that comes in my, and this is part of my work though too. It's like, I need to believe and love myself enough to really know that I deserve a good guy. And this is just untraining my brain. And I'm not saying anyone was a bad person who I dated. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm alluding to. But like for me, right? Like, and I need to not be, why do I attract certain men? And versus like, why do certain men disgust me? Which are like the most, it's just like it really is being proactive on trying to stay present and conscious and know my self-worth. And a lot of that is still in the work. So I don't have solutions here, right? Like, I'm not a certified therapist. I'm just, again, taking you along the journey with whoever listens.
Yeah. I mean, are you looking, when that time comes, do you want a serious relationship? Do you want to settle down again? Is that something
100%.
You want marriage again?
I am done hitting the streets, girl. That sounds bad, but like back in my club days, TMZ knows very well. Like, it was every morning embarrassment, and I am no longer. I can't be in that environment. I don't want to be. It's not that I can't be, but it's no fun. It's just not fun for me when I can't hear the other person talk.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so true.
And I'm so sober, right?
What did you say?
Yeah, I'm like, what? And I have to pee every 2 seconds because I'm drinking water. Right.
Right. I mean, does it scare you, the thought of actually getting married again one day? Does that scare you?
No. No. I mean, I'm not proud of having it, if I do get married again, be my second marriage. And, I come from a divorced family. This was never, there was something in that, I don't know if it was a competitive side or an unrealistic side, that I had put so much pressure on myself that, divorce was like such a bad thing. But then it's just the perspective. Like, if you look at it, it's kind of courageous, right? Like, it's kind of empowering without me saying, oh, I'm so empowered. And I'm like, I'm not, trying to give myself props either. But I think it really is like the way you look at it, because it's not easy staying together. It's not easy not being together. It's like, why compare? It hurts. It sucks.
I totally agree with you. I mean, there's so many people that stay in a marriage just to stay in a marriage. And if you're not happy, you have the rest of your life to.
That's the worst thing.
It's the worst thing. Yeah.
If my mom and dad actually stayed together, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. I think I would have been probably checked into, who knows, some sort of institution by now. Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you and Matthew feel the love and support from so many people, so many fans, so many friends when you posted that? And because I know it took a lot of people by surprise, but I saw the overwhelming amount of love and support that you received from people on social media. I'm sure you both felt that.
Absolutely. I can just speak for myself that it was way more great things than bad things. But of course, as human beings do, there are those hurtful comments, but I'm so grateful for all the support because, pressing send or whatever you press to post an Instagram on your feed, right? It's not necessarily, I just didn't know what to do, but I knew that I had to do it because if I didn't do it, then someone else who was not even in this relationship would have. And it is, let's just nail it in the butt, right? Like, let's just be real. And that's who I am. And I know that some people like to keep their lives private, and I totally respect that. But I know that this is my way of healing and it's my duty. Like, this is what I have to do. And there's not a lot of people that want to do that or that are willing to do that. And, it would have really helped when I was growing up to see someone going through it, right? Just to know that like, this could happen, and this could happen, that you're not alone.
You could tell me no, and if this is too intrusive, this is totally fine. I was just wondering if the two of you are in a good place.
I mean, I can speak for myself that, I'm here and I feel like, yes, I'm definitely in a good place. I can't speak for Matt, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned, Dancing with the Stars, heading on over to Disney. That's obviously a huge change, but are there any other big changes that you're hoping for season 31?
Well, I'm really nervous because I don't know if there's commercials. Doubt it, which means either our dances are going to get longer, God help me, or we'll have more and more production, which is great. Like, I just think that maybe we should do more like producing of the stories, like before the package, before we air, you see the actual camaraderie, right? I think that is important, but man, like a lot, but let me tell you, you cannot make it 2 minutes. And I probably just already put it out there to the universe. So you're going to be seeing us probably dancing for 2 to 3 minutes. But yeah, no commercials. That's insane. And what's so exciting though, is that I'm so happy West Coast and East Coast get to vote. It was a real issue. And without the results show, obviously, like we had years ago, it just was not fair, unfortunately. So now it is. And it's just so cool that we're doing this and we're the first to do it. So
I love it so much. I know you've probably been asked this a million times over the years, but as of right now, who is that dream partner that you would just love to dance with?
Brene Brown. She would be like free therapy. I love her so much. Literally, I think it's funny. I was just at a dinner and they were like, who would you be starstruck? It's like, not Brad Pitt. I can care less. Brene Brown.
I love it.
Now that girls are dancing together, right? Why not?
Yes. I loved it. Last season was great. This is going to be so great on Disney Plus. The podcast, I'm so excited. And one more question about the podcast. How are you hoping that people feel after they listen to each and every episode? What are you hoping they kind of take away from it?
It's a podcast that is not so, it's deep, but it's not heavy to where like, it's not just about mental health. It's not just about divorce. We are very, thank God for Sam Rubin. He keeps it real light. Like, he's just that all-American man who, has had a little rough on the edges, but really has had like this happy-go-lucky life. And then you've got me. Oh my goodness, it's such polar opposites. But what is so cool is that it's educational, right? So I think that I've always said, I wish I would have known this when I was in school. Like, I wish maybe instead of PE, it was like exercising of the mind, like mental health. And I think that we're just starting to get there. And for those people who may have or not in school anymore, like myself, this is very helpful in that sense, just to really understand how maybe our intelligence works, how people are very different, but yet we're really all the same person, right?
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. And I can't wait to listen to your journey and, and have everybody involved in it too. I think it's going to be really great. Mm-hmm. And Cheryl, I wish you nothing but the best. And it's great to see you on this next adventure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good one. Bye.